Good evening and welcome to Cheers to 66 Years to benefit the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. I'm Sheila Hyland, your co-host for this evening. And if I look familiar to you, maybe it's because I spent close to 20 years on television here in Pittsburgh at WTAE-TV and Fox 53. And now here I am with you. I'm a lover of trolleys and very excited to be with you. We have a fun evening planned, and I'm excited to introduce my co-host, Jim Roddy, whom you all know as the former Allegheny County Chief Executive. He is an entrepreneur and businessman extraordinaire and a longtime supporter of the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, who has hosted this event, I understand, for several years as well. So welcome.
Happy 66 years to the Trolley Museum.
Yeah, a long time.
My first knowledge of the Trolley Museum was when I was at the Port Authority, and I was asked to donate a trolley car to the Trolley Museum, and I did, and it's here now on the property, and I've been on a ride. And it's great. It's a wonderful organization with a great management team and wonderful, wonderful volunteers.
It is, and we're so happy to have everyone's support tonight who tuned in. This is the first virtual event that we've done, so bear with us. I mean, we realize it's not the same as being in person, but hey, you can be home on a really cold night with a hot toddy or whatever drink you have in hand and just sit back and relax and enjoy and bid. And without further ado, let's do a little bit of housekeeping on Zoom, on which you are joining us. We'll ask you to keep your video turned off during this event. Not that we don't want to see your lovely faces, but it just works better that way. If your video is on, you can turn it off at the bottom left side of your screen, where you'll find the Stop Video button. If you can't find it, don't worry about it. The moderator can turn off your video for you. You can enter full screen mode by double-clicking on the Zoom window. And to view the program with any without any thumbnails or other screens along the side, find the video panel controls over the topmost video box and then click the leftmost icon. I know that's a little confusing. That's the one with the small horizontal line, and you can minimize the panel. And now the chat box. This is a very important element to our evening. You can open this throughout the evening, and to access the chat, hover over the bottom of your screen and click the chat icon. Now, it's important because the link to the auction items tonight is in this chat icon, and a link to make donations to the museum is also there as well. So let's use the chat right now. If you will, just type in where you're joining us from tonight. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any problems or issues during the event, you can send a message to PTM moderator and we will try to help you out. Okay? All right, and now we want to toss it over to Chris Golofsky. He is the Trolley Museum Board President. And Chris, take it away. Happy to see your smiling face.
Wow, 66 years. You know, it all started out 66 years ago when a handful of gentlemen decided to try to save the fast disappearing form of transportation that so important to our country, helped build the cities. And that was the start of the Trolley Museum. And the Trolley Museum has come a long way. It's grown, it's evolved into what is now probably one of the leading tourist attractions in Washington County, and not just Washington County, but in the entire area. It is my great privilege and honor to welcome you to join us tonight. It's been a real wonderful ride, and the best part of it is we're nowhere near the end of the line yet. So thank you for being with us here tonight. Sheila?
All right, thank you so much, Chris. And we want to thank some of our sponsors who made this evening possible. Obviously, without them, we wouldn't be here now. So let's take a look at some of them and recognize them, starting with Highmark. They are a silver sponsor of ours, and we're so glad to have them on board.
Wonderful, wonderful community partner, and they support so many things. And Range Resources, a silver sponsor. Thank you for your support. They've been a long-time Trolley Museum supporter.
And also thank you to West Banco. We appreciate your silver sponsorship for this evening.
And a bronze sponsor, the Heritage CTA, the Chicago Transit Authority, one of our colleagues a little further north.
Yes, we're happy to have them helping us out tonight. And also a thank you to our bronze sponsor, the Meadows Casino, Racetrack, and Hotel. Where would we be without the Meadows, right?
They're good neighbors. And the bronze sponsor, South Hills Toyota, thank you very much.
And to our media sponsor, we want to shout out to you, the Observer Reporter.
Very good newspaper. I enjoy it. And always transportation, moving and storage right here in Pennsylvania. And we thank you.
Yes, and to those businesses that donated tonight for our auction items, a big thank you to all of you. Sarah's Candies, Eaton Park, Rivers of Steel, Countryside Frame Shop, South Hills Toyota, and Ed and Elaine Morasic, sorry. Trying to read. It gets harder the older you get.
You should wear your glasses.
Yes, I should have worn my contacts, but I didn't, Jim. It happens. All right, now let's go through the auction items. First of all, a little housekeeping with that. We're going to tell you how you can bid tonight. First of all, visit the website ptm.betterworld.org/auctions/cheers 66 years. Then when you get to the site, click on the item that you're interested in bidding on. This will open up then a full page of the item, and you'll see what the starting bid is. Then you enter the amount that you want to bid, and we hope it's generous, and fill out all the necessary information, and then of course we'll wish you good luck on that. And you can continue to bid up until midnight tonight. We encourage you to keep going back and seeing what your item is currently bid at, and hopefully move it up. And there is a link to the auction items in the chat. Remember the chat. So go to the chat. Okay, and here are our auction items.
Sarah's Candy Bar, a 5-pound candy bar, and you said you were going to bid on 2 of those, I think.
Yes, 2 of them, 1 for each night.
Starting bid is $40. Nemacolin Country Club, and thank you very much. A wonderful place to go, particularly at the holidays, and the starting bid is $250, and it includes a golf foursome with gifts at Nemacolin and so many other things there.
Yeah, and that's for 4 players as well.
4 players.
It's a pretty good deal, yes.
And Chris Letang, one of the great hockey legends, 500 goals, the most ever in Penguin for a defense player.
Right.
Number 58, starting bid $150. And thank you, Chris, for donating your jersey.
For Ed and Elaine Morasic, actually, for donating the jersey,
Oh.
and it was signed as well. So that's going to be a popular item for sure.
And we've got the Rivers of Steel and Eaton Park for this donation, a day in Pittsburgh. And the Rivers of Steel is another great attraction in southwestern Pennsylvania. And of course, Eaton Park is an iconic restaurant that...
With smiley cookies, yes.
Yes, I've been to 28 of them.
Have you?
Yes.
And there's more, I'm sure. So with this package comes a guided tour of the Cary blast furnaces. I think that'd be fascinating. And a guided tour of W.A. Young & Sons Machine Shop and Foundry. And Jim, I think you should take your great-grandchildren to that. These wonderful tours are made possible, of course, by Rivers of Steel. And after your tours, you can enjoy a meal at every Pittsburgher's favorite restaurant, which is, of course, Eaton Park. And that alone is a $40 value. So please bid on this item.
And a private dining experience on Trolley Parlor Car Toledo Vintage 1906. I have been on private train cars and trolley cars. It is really a lot of fun. But tell them what's special about this.
Oh yeah, Jim, this really is incredible. So you're going to board this beautiful Trolley Parlor Car Toledo, as you said, vintage 1906, for a once-in-a-lifetime dining experience for 4 people. You're going to enjoy a signature cocktail and appetizer as you sit amongst the beautifully restored parlor car. Now, after your cocktail and appetizer, you and your guests will move into the dining area where you'll enjoy a relaxing evening on the trolley, entertaining friends with a chef from Bella Sarah, your own chef. Sarah will customize the menu for your tastes precisely. You don't like seafood? You don't have to have seafood. The chef will come armed with a secret stash of herbs, spices, and oils from various places throughout Italy, and will engage your guests throughout the meal preparation, then present each course with fine detail. And after your meal, Jim, you will board the West Penn 832 as it transports you on a 4-mile round-trip ride, and you can enjoy a personalized tour of the museum. How about that?
Wow.
And that's a minimum starting bid of $1,500. That's a priceless offer right there.
That is. That's wonderful.
And moving on to our next auction item.
It is the Trolley Museum image framed, beautiful framed photograph. Is it a photo? Is it a painting?
It's a painting, yeah. Look,
George
we're looking at the
Moore
detail
of
that is
Countryside
gorgeous.
Frame Shop has donated this, and the starting bid is $100, and it's a night scene and trolley workers there, and the trolley in the background with the lights on. That's
Right.
beautiful.
That would look so beautiful in anyone's home. Yes, so please bid on that item. And finally, we have our last auction item.
Operator for a day. I have done this, Sheila, and it is so much fun. Not for a day, I did it for about an hour. And I got to ring the bell and go through intersections and have cars stopped and all of those things, and stop at a station and then take off. I thought I got to wear the trolley hat. I could have done it all day long, but this is trolley for an operator for a day.
Right,
and
right.
They
You
get to do other things.
4 hours, Jim. You
4
can
hours.
operate that trolley,
Wow.
yes. And you can take a tour of the facility. You can enjoy a boxed lunch with our executive director, Scott Becker, and imagine all the stories he has to tell. This experience will provide the winning bidder with 1 regular membership as well, and you can bring along 3 guests for the ride along.
And how much is it?
That's minimum bid of $200. I mean, that's
$200.
worth much more than that, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would pay that.
Absolutely. Well, then you can go bid as soon as
I
we're done
will.
here. Remember, you can bid until midnight, and bid early, bid often, and bid as much as you can. All right, now we are going to, we're going to do the auction instructions. I guess it's important to let you know how you can bid, right? So you're going to want to go to, again, ptm.betterworld.org/auctions/cheers66years. Click on the item you're interested in, and again, you'll see a full screen of the item that the starting bid is listed for at the moment. You're going to enter the amount you want to bid and fill out all the necessary information. Okay, so hopefully you have that down. And this is a live look at what the site looks like. So this is when you go to the website, this is what you'll see there. And you can just click on any one of those individual items and make your bid, again, until midnight tonight. So ptm.betterworld.org/auctions/cheers66years. And that's it. The link is in the chat. And now Jim's going to introduce us to a very important member of the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, Scott Becker.
Yes, Scott Becker is the executive director of the Trolley Museum. He has been a marvelous manager, and he manages more volunteers than he has employees. A majority of the people that work and take care of the trolleys, maintain them, work on them, rehab them, all are volunteers, and it's a wonderful group of people. And they love what they do, and they many of them did that in private life, and they retired and never thinking they would be able to continue to do this or even want to, but they love it, and it's great. And Scott leads that group, and he's a great fundraiser. He's a great manager, and the Trolley Museum and Western Pennsylvania is fortunate to have him.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words, Jim. And I'm going to take you on a ride into the past and into the present and also into the future of the museum. So we're going to show you a few images. This is 66 years ago. These are the first 3 cars on their way to the museum. And this photo was taken actually only about 2 miles from where I'm standing right now. This is in Morganza. And we're at the Hilton Garden Inn in South Point. So these cars are on their way down to the museum. And the first 3 cars were West Penn Curbside Car 832, Low Floor Car 3756 from Pittsburgh Railways, and Pittsburgh Railways Pay Car M1. And so that was the genesis of the museum. And they came down to County Home Siding. And this is a shot actually taken in the 1920s, but it was just basically a piece of track in those days. There wasn't a museum. It all had to be built from scratch. The big opening day was June 23rd, 1963, and here we are with the Founders Car House in the background with one of the Washington County Commissioners speaking, and there was a nice crowd that day, and this was quite a thing, having an operating trolley museum. This is not what people were used to in those days. And Lou Redmond, I consider our founder. Lou was a visionary, and the people with him were visionaries, because back in those days, people thought of museums as the big art museums like the Carnegie, and they didn't think of people preserving trolley cars. So they really had a leap of faith in starting the Trolley Museum. The museum started to grow. This is our main building at 1 Museum Road at the museum. It started in the 1970s, and we expanded it in the 1980s and the 1990s. Right now, it's our current front door. We have a visitor education center there, a trolley restoration and maintenance shop, as well as a parts room. Inside, we have a place where guests can come in and buy their tickets. We do have a paid staff also. This is Maddie Klein, our Visitor Services Manager here. And we do have some exhibits. This is one of our volunteers at Liebarger installing one of our exhibits at the museum a few years ago. We have a restoration and maintenance shop. So this building is really a beehive of activity, often, especially middle of the week, end of the week, and the weekends, where volunteers actually maintain the trolleys and they actually restore them. So we have 50 trolleys in our collection, so that's a lot of mouths to feed. One of our big achievements is the trolley display building. So this building was built in the early 2000s. It was open to the public in May of 2005, and it's the largest building at the museum. It houses over 30 trolleys, and it's been upgraded over the years. It has nice wide aisleways in it where you can give tours, and we have all kinds of information in front of each of the cars. As the museum's grown, our visitation has grown. So this is our open trolley that came here in 2009. It's very, very popular. Our volunteers restored it over a couple of years. One of our other achievements was relocating the Wexford Post Office Deli to the Trolley Museum. This was a photo taken in 2014 when it was donated to us. It was a very popular place to eat lunch on Route 9, 10, and 19 up in Wexford for many years. But most people don't know that it was actually a trolley station originally. There's a photo taken probably around 1910 or so of the building when it was a trolley station. We actually took it apart and moved it down 79 and brought it to the museum in 2015, where we restored it, and here it is today, ready to welcome visitors. It's beautifully restored inside, even has some nice mahogany benches from Station Square in Pittsburgh. The future is very exciting. So we have some artist renderings here of the museum, of the East Campus, and you'll see the trolley display building in the background. You'll see Wexford Station closer to us, and then we are about to build Trolley Street, and we're going to build a 21,000 square foot welcome and education center. So that's on the right side of your screen. And there's another view looking at it with the new parking lot. This is really going to be a hub for the museum. This will be our new front door. We've recently gotten bids to construct this complex, and we plan to start construction early next year. Here's the interior view of the building. We are actually partnering with the Carnegie Science Center, and they're developing interactive exhibits for us, which will really propel the museum as a very important educational facility in southwestern Pennsylvania. This is Trolley Street, which will also include Barry Stout Park. Senator J. Barry Stout was a very strong advocate for the museum. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, and we've been working with the Stout family and many of his supporters to build this memorial to him, but also bring an important activity area for our younger visitors that come to the museum. And we'll have a brick Trolley Street, as you see on the right-hand side. Another view of Trolley Street, we actually are putting in some nice canopy for people to wait under the canopy during all sorts of weather while they're waiting for the streetcars. So we've been busy making progress on this project. Not too long ago, we inaugurated our new entrance road. We're very fortunate that we have great support from our elected officials and from foundations and businesses, and many of them came out to help us celebrate this accomplishment. And our volunteers have actually started to construct Trolley Street. They put in the trolley poles for that project. We also have been busy improving the fairgrounds platform, which is at the Washington County Fairgrounds. Is a photo of the platform. Last year, after we had completed that, we worked very closely with Washington County, and they were able to get us some grants to build this. And then this photo was taken just a month ago during the Washington County Arts and Crafts Christmas Festival, and you can see a new canopy that we put in for that festival and for the fairgrounds platform. So we're always busy working on making the museum a better place, and a lot of that has to do with our volunteers. And this is a photo of some of our volunteers just after the open car arrived in 2009. Very proud of that. They give guided tours to the museum. They restore cars, and this is Laura Wells and her father Bruce Wells working on some equipment at the museum. We're always working on bringing back old technology. So our motto is, it's more than a ride, it's an experience. So I do hope that you all consider coming out to visit us, and we do ask you to help us to keep going, to keep the trolleys running, and this is our visit patrolley.org/support page that you can go to help support us.
And I know, Scott, that you also spoke with Dave Hamley earlier, and
Yes.
so you're going to fill us in on that.
Absolutely. So Dave, we talked about being around, the museum being around for 66 years, and Dave's one of our original volunteers. He started in 1960 before the museum opened to the public, and he is still active to this day. He is in charge of our mobile equipment, so we have lots of cranes and forklifts and all sorts of things, and his nickname around the museum is Mr. Goodwrench, because he likes to fix things and he likes to troubleshoot things. So Dave was not able to be here tonight, but through the technology of Zoom, we were able to interview him, and we're going to play that interview for you.
Well, Dave, thanks so much for joining us today. And the whole idea behind the event is to look back, look at where we are today, and also look into the future. And I thought of you for looking back because you've been here from almost the beginning. And obviously, and when I say the beginning, I'm talking 1960. And we were talking a little bit before, and even you were here before that as a visitor. So I thought, first of all, if you could tell me what got you interested in joining the museum back in 1960.
Well, I'd always been interested in railroads. In my case, I think it was a little bit of heredity, but nevertheless, I got interested in model railroading in the 50s, and I joined the Pittsburgh Model Railroad Club, and that's where I met Lou Redman. Lou was very much involved in the Model Railroad Club and the Trolley Museum. And Lou kept telling us members at the Model Railroad Club about this marvelous facility that was being built in Washington County and kept trying to encourage us to come out and visit and get involved. So some of us went out and visited in, I believe it was August of 1957, July or August of 57. And to put it mildly, we were a little underwhelmed. The facility was pretty rudimentary at that time. I remember someone asking, "Where's the restrooms?" And that was one of many things that didn't exist in the museum yet. So I was intrigued, but not enough to join up just yet. I was then, after high school, I was out of state for a couple of years. And then I came back in early 1960. And I think I had heard, it might have been in the newspapers about a trolley fan trip in Pittsburgh. So I signed up and rode the fan trip. And I was amazed that there were that many people that were that fanatical about trolleys. And then I went to a couple of the Pittsburgh Electric Railway Club meetings at the YMCA in downtown Pittsburgh. And I got hooked, and I joined up in July 1960. And it's been quite a remarkable experience since then.
Well, I was going to say that if my math is correct, 1960, that's 60 years ago. So a lot of water has passed under the North Main Street Bridge since then. And maybe you could tell us how different is PTM today from when it was in 1960?
Well, in 1960, the car barn building, which we call the Founders Car House, or Building Number 1 now, it was completed to the point that the cars on the property at that time were all secured indoors, and that was essentially the facility. The only other sheltered area on the property was the Pennsylvania Railroad caboose, which was kind of a small one, but that's where everybody went to eat lunch. If we were out there in winter weather, and somebody would stoke up the coal stove, and we'd all pack in there and eat lunch in the caboose. So that's about what it amounted to. The beginnings of additional trackage, of a power plant, a number of other projects were all underway by that time. But some of them, of course, were years away from completion.
So, back then, and even later on, as we go through the 1960s and even the 1970s, did you imagine that the museum would develop like it did?
Well, I certainly had expectations that growth would continue. In some respects, there were some setbacks at times, but for the most part, it's been a continuous series of events that just made the museum what it is today, a little bit at a time. It was a slow growth, of course, but it was a very positive experience to see each one of these projects to be completed, to come online. I remember very well being there the first time a trolley moved under its own power was at the museum. When we first turned on the power plant in December of 1962. That was quite an event. And then, of course, the opening day, the first public operation in June of '63. I was privileged to be one of the operators that day, and that was quite an experience. And,
you must have been very proud.
Oh yeah. It was definitely a very rewarding experience. Every time one of these big projects or car acquisitions or improvements on the property, every time something like that would happen, it gave everybody a feeling of pride, and that's what's, I think that's those kind of feelings are what has kept the museum cooking along the way it is today.
Well, speaking of that, what achievements are you most proud of at the museum?
Well, in relatively recent years, my involvement has had a lot to do with the general heading of mobile equipment. I was empowered to get some equipment from federal surplus and to rework it and make it usable at the museum. And of course, my most recent big project was Locomotive 89. We took a derelict standard gauge industrial locomotive with no engine and some other defects, and we made a broad gauge switcher out of it for the museum, and something that has proven very useful over the years. And another project I very much enjoyed was the 2-week period where we moved all of the cars into the TDB building just after it was completed. That was that was probably the most intensive 2-week period that I'd ever spent at the museum. But it was a lot of fun. We got it all done.
Yeah, just a few months ahead of Hurricane Ivan.
Yeah, well, like I say, there's been high points and low points.
Well, that was a good timing, though.
Oh yeah,
We moved cars out of the shop that were at high ground.
We took, I believe, 5 or 6 cars out of the shop that would have otherwise been flooded. So, as you say, timing is everything.
Now you've spent your entire career working in the transit supply industry, or pretty much so. How do you see PTM helping to document and preserve that industry?
Well, our archives, of course, are a very important part of that. While working at Bombardier and its predecessors, I was able to tap the Westinghouse Electric Corporation archives for drawings and specs and all sorts of technical information. And that was a very, very valuable resource that we were able to access through the Bombardier organization. So I'm quite proud of having been able to provide that information to the museum, because some of it is information you can't get it anywhere else. And there's no better source than the original drawings from which things were manufactured.
Yeah.
Back in the teens and 20s and so forth.
Dave, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the museum or your involvement there?
Well, it's one of these things that whenever I meet someone new and I tell them that I've been a volunteer at some organization for 60 years, they look and say, wow, it must really be something interesting. That is absolutely the case.
Yeah.
And I will be a member as long as I can draw breath, believe me.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to wrap this up, and really appreciate your time, and hopefully you'll tune in for our Cheers to 6 years when we have that next week.
Wouldn't miss it.
It is now my pleasure to introduce another volunteer, just like Dave Hamley, who really epitomizes the volunteers here at the Trolley Museum. This next gentleman is an entrepreneur, a brilliant businessman, and someone that I admire a great deal. And while I am honored to be involved with the Trolley Museum, I'm also honored to work with someone that I greatly admire. Ray Butler has been president and CEO of several companies, including Wabtec and Bombardier. He's a 41-year veteran of the transportation industry. But that doesn't say much about the person himself, other than being very, very capable as a businessman. He is a wonderful community asset. He has chaired the sports museum at the Carnegie Museum. He's been on many boards, but his role as chairman of the Capital Committee for the Trolley Museum is where we have worked together most recently. I met Ray many, many years ago when I was chairman of the Port Authority, and he was with Bombardier, and I followed his career, and we've been friends for a very long time. Ray is a person without ego. He is the most humble person I have ever known. He's honest, absolutely honest. He's a patriot. He has a wonderful family. He believes in God and family and our country. And he believes in the Trolley Museum. And in his role, he has raised millions of dollars. And much of what you saw in the video of the new Trolley Museum that will be built, the additions and how it will look, are because of Ray Butler. And I am very proud to be a colleague of his, and I'm proud to introduce Ray Butler.
Well, that was quite an introduction.
He's a sweet guy.
He is, and you're a terrific guy.
Thank you.
According to Jim, especially. So let me ask you, first of all, what got you interested in the Trolley Museum?
So I started, Dave Hamley and I worked together. I was electrical design engineer, started with Westinghouse Transportation in January 1979, and almost immediately I had the opportunity to start to work with the Trolley Museum through parts that had been supplied in trolleys, 4 trolleys that were supplied through Westinghouse Transportation. And our business was relatively small then. The engineering department was about 40 people, and I had the blessing of being able to support the renewal parts and after market business, which fed the Trolley Museum in terms of any support they needed.
So you've seen it grow over the last few decades. Tell me about that growth and how different the museum is now from the time you got on board in the late 70s.
So I actually started to visit the Trolley Museum much earlier because my father was, he worked for the Pennsylvania State Health Department, and he actually inspected the water to make sure it was okay to drink there. He was based in Washington, PA. So I remember from being a little kid, it's completely different, and it's still the same in many ways. It's the same in the sense that the original passion, the original mission that existed in a vision that people had for the Trolley Museum still exists. You can see it in the comments Dave Hamley made, but it's obviously much different in terms of the physical structure and the campus and the plans for the future.
Are you surprised at all by how much it's developed and grown over the years?
I would say I'm not surprised in the sense that the people are so committed and dedicated that are involved with the Trolley Museum. You know, you have beautiful people like Chris and Scott and Jim Roddy. He's been involved all the way back since he was associated, as he said, with the Port Authority. And you see that kind of commitment and camaraderie when you go over there. The hundreds of volunteers that are putting in, some people are putting in more than the actual number of hours a person would work a year. There's people that volunteer over 1,000 hours a year, 1,500 hours a year there.
It is really incredible to see the commitment of the volunteers,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. If you had to pick one achievement that you're most proud of at the Trolley Museum, what would it be?
So when I started with Westinghouse Transportation. That business was bought by the Germans, Daimler-Benz. It was called AdTrans. During that period of time, we had a 500,000 square foot facility up in Elmira, New York. Dave Hamley, actually, I asked if he would project manage the renovation of 3 trolleys. So we took 3 trolleys up to Elmira, and we completely renovated those, and then put those back, commissioned those back for use at the Trolley Museum. And those trolleys will serve the Trolley Museum for decades to come.
Finally, I just want to ask you, what do you feel when you go to the Trolley Museum now and you just you just look at all the trolleys and what's being offered to all the people, what sense of pride does that give to you?
So I think anybody associated with the Trolley Museum has to be very appreciative of what's been done there, and very appreciative of the people that are involved with that, the volunteers and the staff. And for me, I don't know if pride is the right word, but what I feel is a lot of gratification and a lot of warmth and expectation about the future. I think that having that asset in Washington County is an incredible gift for the community, for this region, for the industry that I supported my family with for over 4 decades. And what is going to be there over the next 5, 10, 20 years is going to be incredible. The facility will be, Jim mentioned a Carnegie Science Center. It'll be very much the same, a 24/7 operation that is supporting young people, young families, and people that are on the other end of the spectrum.
And we're all here tonight to make sure that happens. Ray Butler, thank you so much,
Thank
and
you, Sheila.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks
for
for
being honored
coming.
tonight. Well deserved. Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
But kudos to you.
Thank you.
And now we want to get a little bit of a word from one of our sponsors, Highmark.
It's now my great pleasure to introduce a young lady who I've known for quite a long time. In fact, I first met her when she was a little toddler coming down to the Trolley Museum with her father, who was a very active volunteer, still is at the museum. Cutest little girl you'd ever want to see. Well, over the years, she's grown just like the Trolley Museum. And now she's the vice president. She's my right hand. And I'll tell you a little bit about Laura. She's not afraid to get her hands dirty and get in there and do work. She's as comfortable climbing up on the roof of a car stringing overhead wire as she is going to a cocktail party for the Chamber of Commerce. She's been a great help, very active volunteer. And she's also a teacher. I just want to introduce Laura Wells.
Here she is. Thank you, Chris. Again, another beautiful intro for a deserving person. Laura, tell us about your involvement in the museum. We heard a little bit from Chris, but expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, just like Chris said, I started at the museum as a small child in the care of my father and my mother. They actually met at the Trolley Museum, and here I am. And I spent a lot of time following him around and listening and gleaning information. And I'm actually a third-generation volunteer because my grandfather, before my mother, he was the 5th member of the museum.
You're keeping it all in the family.
Yeah, and he just turned 101 yesterday.
Oh,
so
well,
happy birthday. Yeah.
101.
101.
What a milestone. So since that time when you were a little girl visiting the museum, how much has it changed for you when you go and look at it now?
It's changed tremendously. Even in the relatively short time, I guess, it's been about half of the time. There's 66 years, so I've been there about half of that time. And there's been great strides that have been taken. I remember just, a couple buildings and short pieces of track, and we ran back and forth, and now we have 4 miles of track, twice as much as what we have now. We have a much more in-depth and educational experience. I think we've really honed that. And we're working towards something that's going to be really great.
So I have to ask you, do you get as much of a thrill now when you're at the museum as you did when you were that little girl?
Oh yeah, every time. It's just as thrilling. Every time I take a car out and run it, every time I'm working, on the equipment, on the overhead, I've done track work, I've done a little bit of everything. It's always just as much fun as it was before. Yeah. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be there.
That makes sense. So you spent your career working as a technology education teacher. How do you see PTM helping to further educational needs in our region?
There's all kind of educational opportunities at the museum where, first and foremost, people would look at us and say, oh, well, you're a history museum. You're talking about the history of the region and the history of how the country developed into what it is now. But you look deeper into that and you're really looking into the invention, the innovation, the technology that really went into developing all of these systems and this equipment that we have, and how it's developed into what it is today and how it's developing beyond that. So
and let's talk about this. Just my last question is just, looking beyond that, look into your crystal ball. What do you see on down line for the PTM in the next 5, 10, even 20 years?
I think we're going to be a mainstay of the county, tourism industry. We're going to be drawing in hopefully more, people than we are now with our new facility, and we're just going to continue to develop. As I said, it's changed tremendously in the time I've been there, and I can't imagine what it's going to look like, 20, 30 years down the road.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah. Laura Wells, thank you so much, and congratulations for being honored tonight. Well deserved. And now we're going to take a message from Range Resources.
Hello, I'm Kylie Fuller from Range Resources.
And I'm Meredith Blakely.
And we wanted to congratulate the PA Trolley Museum for all their hard work they've put in Washington County over the years.
Range Resources has been a partner with the Trolley Museum for 10 years, and we are so proud to work with them each and every day.
As the leading natural gas producer in Washington County, Range is so excited to continue our work together. We will be sending you a virtual cheers to 66 years. Cheers!
Well, I'll be presenting this plaque to Dave Hamley, and Dave, I know you're watching tonight, so next time you're at the museum, we'll do a short presentation. Thank you again.
I have the honor of giving this beautiful award, this plaque, to Ray Butler, who you've met and who has meant so much to the Trolley Museum.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It is my great pleasure to present this award to my right hand, Vice President Laura Wells. Laura.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
And congratulations to all of you tonight. We appreciate it. And we want to go back over now and recognize our sponsors again, whose contributions cannot be overstated. First of all, to our silver sponsor, Highmark. Thank you again for all of your help. And next to our other silver sponsor, Range Resources. And West Banco, another silver sponsor of the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. And our bronze sponsor, Heritage Fleet, CTA Heritage Fleet. And our next bronze sponsor, the Meadows Casino, Racetrack, and Hotel. Another bronze sponsor, South Hills Toyota. What would we be without you? And to our media sponsor, the Observer Reporter. And a special thanks to Always Moving and Storage. And again, for all those who donated, Sarah's Candies, Eaton Park, Rivers of Steel, Countryside Frame Shop, South Hills Toyota, and Ed and Elaine Marasic. Thank you so much for helping us tonight. And a special thanks to Michael Kendlick and Graham Audio, Viewpoint, ProLit Lighting, and Pirate Republic. And finally, to Liberty Pole Spirits. We appreciate all that you have done for the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum and making this event possible tonight. And I am back here with Jim. And Jim, I was noticing we weren't paying too much attention earlier, but some of the auction items are in between us. This beautiful painting. And I'm telling you what, in person, this is spectacular. I mean, it is just beautiful. And of course, the Latang jersey there too. Woo, that would be nice to have in your house, wouldn't it?
I like all the whiskey.
You like the whiskey?
Yeah.
I like the chocolate. All right, now let's go through again how you can take part in the auction and how you can bid. Remember to visit ptm.betterworld.org/auctions/cheers66years. You want to then click on the bid item that you're interested in. This will open up a full detail of the item and what the starting bid is. Then you enter the amount that you want to bid and fill out all the necessary information. And this is what the live shot looks like of the website and the auction items. Again, you have until midnight tonight, so please keep going back in and checking your auction item. And we wish you the very best of luck in winning your auction item. I know I'm going to be probably going on there after this is over, Jim. And
Yeah, I was just thinking, if it's till midnight, I've got time to get home and bid on that framed picture.
I mean, really, it's incredible in person.
Beautiful.
It doesn't do it justice on the screen, just so that you know. So let's go through again some of the auction items, starting with, there it is.
Your favorite.
My favorite.
The 5-pound milk chocolate bar, bids start at $40, and it's donated by the wonderful Sarah's Candies.
Yes, you can't go wrong with Sarah's Candies, right?
Nemacolin Country Club, a golf foursome with carts and at the country club, and it's a wonderful donation, and its starting bid is $250, and it's for a party of 4.
Correct, yeah, there's a lot with that, so yeah, let's get the bids up on that.
And of course, the famous, and he will be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
No doubt.
As soon as he retires, Chris Letang, a jersey signed, $150. Wonderful, wonderful. And
Yes.
here it is.
And our thanks to Ed and Lelaine Morasic for donating that too.
Yes.
Spectacular auction item.
And Rivers of Steel, the Eaton Park, the two iconic organizations of Pittsburgh, a day in Pittsburgh, and its starting bid is $50. And at Rivers of Steel, you can have a tour of the blast furnace, and it's in Homestead. It's a wonderful place to go.
Yeah, and a guided tour of W.A. Young and Sons Machine Shop and Foundry. You get 2 passes for that as well. And you can enjoy a meal then at Eaton Park. That's included as well. And that's just starting bid at $50.
Well, it's, we have another one. We don't forget.
Yeah, the creme de la creme, yes.
I'm definitely going to bid on that.
Yeah.
A private dining experience on Trolley, say that 4 times. Trolley parlor car, Toledo vintage, 1906. The starting bid is $1,500, but when you hear Sheila tell you all the things that go with that, it's a bargain.
You know what? This is really an incredible experience. I want you to just picture this, okay? So you're going inside this beautiful vintage trolley. They're going to give you a signature cocktail, you and 3 others of your friends, so there's 4 of you all together, and an appetizer inside the trolley car. And then after your cocktail and appetizer, you're going to go into the dining car, and you're going to have your own private chef from Bella Sera who is going to cook a meal to your specifications, whatever your little heart desires. Okay? And then the chef is going to come armed with, all kinds of things, herbs, you name it, spices from Italy and all around the world. He's going to prepare an amazing meal and then present each course, as we say, with fine detail. And then afterward, you're going to board the West Penn 832 as it transports you 4 miles round trip to enjoy a personalized tour of the museum. That is just an evening that you will remember for a lifetime.
Very long.
Jim has promised that if he wins the bid, he's going to take me.
Yes.
Right, and vice versa. All right, and then we have another. That's our favorite painting here.
Yes, the painting is, we were looking at it up close, and this, when you see it on the screen, it really doesn't do it justice. When you see it in person, it is absolutely beautiful. And George Moore of Countryside Frame Shop donated this, and the starting bid is $100, and it is beautiful.
And if you can get a two-shot of us too, real briefly, you can get an idea of how large the painting actually is between us. Yeah, it's a good-sized painting. And then we have our final auction item.
Final option, operator for a day. You've seen all of the pictures of the trolleys and everyone driving them and having a good time. That can be you. And you can put on a trolley hat, and you can be the driver for the day and 4 hours of driving the trolley. It's a great experience. I've done that, and we would recommend it for anyone to have a great time. I took my grandchildren with me when I drove, and it's a bid of $200, but you also get a tour of the museum.
Oh, incredible day. I mean, it really is. You get so much for this experience. Yeah, lunch with the executive director, Scott Becker, as you mentioned. It's worth way more than $200. So let's get those bids up and let's help the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. And let's tell you again how to bid on the items. So again, you're going to want to go to ptm.betterworld.org/auctions/cheers66years. Once you get into the page, you're going to click on the item that you want to bid on. It'll open up the screen and you'll see what the starting bid is, or the current bid, and then you'll enter the amount that you want to bid and fill out all the information that it asks you to. And again, the auction is open until midnight tonight, so you have plenty of opportunity to go back in and add, keep the bidding going and raise your bids. So we encourage that. And the links to the auction are in the chat on the Zoom call that you're on right now. Okay, so we make that easy for you.
And we want to remind people that those bids all of the proceeds go to the Trolley Museum, which is one of the major tourist attractions in southwestern Pennsylvania, and is a great experience for families. And bring your children, your grandchildren, and in my case, my great-grandchildren. As soon as they're 1 year old now, so about another year they'll be ready to come to the Trolley Museum.
Absolutely, and they will enjoy it so much. And we also want to thank Liberty Pole Spirits as well tonight. So many people that have helped us out. And Jim, I want to thank you for being my co-host. I have so enjoyed this, and thank you for letting me be a part of this event, the first ever virtual event.
Well, you had all the work to do, so I really want to thank you for what you did for the Trolley Museum tonight and for being a part of this, and it was great being with you.
It was.
And I'm so glad you got to see me.
We had a great time. I'm so glad I got to see you too. It's been years. Okay, and now we are going to show you how to donate. Another very important part of our evening. Visit us at patrolley.org/support. And remember, we do need your support, particularly in this pandemic. Fundraising, as you can imagine, has been difficult for so many organizations. And now I have Scott back with us to talk about why we're asking for your help tonight. And I think, Scott, we should start with the money that people donate. What is it being used for? Where is it going?
Well, it helps us with general operating support. It literally keeps the trolleys running. So one of the great things about the museum, as we mentioned earlier, is the volunteers really help to do a lot of the work. Our staff, paid staff, works very closely with them, but we stretch out the dollars that we get because of the many volunteers that work there. We have a number of businesses that donate services and that kind of thing.
Why is funding so critical right now?
Well, it's been a tough year. We haven't had special events. We actually reopened in July, and now with the pandemic coming back right now, we're pretty much going to be closed to the public the rest of the year, so revenue is not what it normally is. And like squirrels gathering acorns for the winter, we need to gather dollars so we can be ready for next year's season.
Where would the Trolley Museum be, and what is its future without the funding of the people who are watching tonight?
Well, it might not even exist because of the generosity of people that have helped over the years. It really has made the difference. And we have had a lot of individuals donate to us this year that have helped us get through. And as I mentioned, just to prepare for next year is a key year for us. It's a transitional year because we're looking to open our new Welcome and Education Center in 2022. So in 2021, we're going to be under construction at our East Campus, but we're also going to be preparing exhibits, preparing for the new building. And so next year is really important for us.
Funding is critical. So if you're watching right now and you're still not quite convinced as to why you should donate or why it's so important, I'm going to give you the floor, Scott, to explain that.
Well, the museum is so much to so many people. It was mentioned earlier, we're a living history museum. We literally bring history to life. As you go down the track, it's a three-dimensional experience. You're hearing the trolley run, the sway of the car, and it brings people back to another time. One of the things we found is that people that didn't even live back in the day have this perceived nostalgia, and it brings a joy to them to say, this is what it was like in the old days. And as Laura said when she was sitting here earlier, we're also looking at expanding our educational opportunities and having the Carnegie Science Center working with us on these interactive exhibits. We want lots of school children to come to the museum and not only learn about history, but learn about science and learn about how things are made. We still make things here in Pittsburgh, and the museum's part of that.
And we want it to continue to be a part of that for many years to come, even when we're no longer here.
Exactly.
Scott Becker, thank you so much for being
Sheila.
here this evening. And again, we do need your support. Go to patrolley.org/support and make your donation tonight. And of course, obviously, we want you to bid on the items that we have here as well. That will be open until midnight tonight. And you can find a link to both in the chat section of the Zoom call. I want to thank you personally so much for joining us tonight. We hope you've had a great time. I know I have. Time to, I guess, go get another drink and settle in for the evening. And please remember to donate and to bid, and have a wonderful evening.